All right, so now we've got astronomy tidbits again for November 2020 with Steve Layman of CAS. I'm going to truncate it now. C for Charlottesville, A for Astronomical, and S for Society of CAS. So Steve, you want to go ahead and take it away?
All right, thank you. So dates to remember, a lot of things happening in the month of November. You've got to remember that October 31st is a blue moon, meaning it's the second full moon in a month. And so on November 1st, we're just one day past October's full blue moon. So the moon will look almost full when you see it that evening. On November 4th, the torrid meteor shower, that means that the meteors are going to be coming at us with the radius, radiant, being Taurus the bull, which rises after about 9:30 in the evening. The issue is you're going to be fighting the nearly full moon. On November 12th, Venus is 3 degrees south of the moon. That means your little finger, 3 widths of that held at arm's length is 3 degrees. And I've actually got a cool infogram here in a slide or two to talk about measuring in the night sky. November 13th, Mercury is almost 2 degrees south of the moon. Now, normally those of us that are down in the valley areas have a hard time seeing Mercury. Stuff is usually in the way, but if you're up on top of the mountain at Wintergreen, you should be able to see Mercury as a star-like object just a little south of the moon, again, 2 degrees or 2 little finger widths south of the moon. November 15th is going to be the best night for observing. That's going to be the new moon. It's going to be really dark that night. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it won't be raining or cloudy that night. November 17th and 18th is the Leonid meteor shower. This is one that's going to happen after midnight because the radiant is Leo the lion, which doesn't come up until after midnight. Because it's just so close to the new moon, this could be a really great year for the Leonid meteor shower. November 19th, Jupiter is just 2 degrees north of the moon and Saturn just 3 degrees north of the moon. So it's going to be a great pairing. It might be a nice night to get your camera out, put it on a tripod. If you've got a little bit of a zoom lens, zoom in and see if you can catch all 3 of those planetary objects in a single view. On November 25th, Mars is going to be 5 degrees south of the moon. 5 degrees is your 3 middle fingers, the old Boy Scout salute, in width, held at arm's length. So again, a nice camera opportunity to see Mars just north of the moon. And finally, we get to the full moon on the 30th. And so that might be a good night to stay inside and drink hot chocolate or an adult beverage of your choice. So here's that little info, Marshall, I talked about measuring distances in the night sky. Astronomers measure distances in degrees of the night sky. And so your pinky is 1 degree, your 3 middle fingers 5, your fist 10, little finger to index finger 15 degrees, and your pinky to your thumb stretched out 25 degrees. And people often ask, well, how does this work for people of different sizes? And because our bodies tend to be proportional to our hand sizes, this works whether you're a child or an adult. Your hand held in one of these configurations at arm's length will give you roughly that distance of measurement. So, if you're looking at something in an astronomy journal or maybe on a website and it says that something is so many degrees from something else, you now know how to be able to figure that out. So we've got a number of space launches scheduled for November. On the 22nd, SpaceX Falcon 9 is going to launch a Dragon cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. It'll lift off from Cape Canaveral. And if you've never watched one of these, you can go to the SpaceX website or the NASA website. They both do a really good job of covering these. We've got a TBA in that SpaceX is also going to launch its first operational Crew Dragon mission to the International Space Station. That's going to be a crew of 4 astronauts, including Shannon Walker and Soichi Noguchi from Japan. This will launch from the Kennedy Space Center. We don't have a date yet, but they're figuring that it's going to be sometime mid to late November. There's also going to be a SpaceX Falcon 9 launch of some more of their Starlink broadband network satellites. We don't have a date for this one either. These are very often weather dependent and launch window dependent. But again, if you check back with the SpaceX site, you'll be able to find out when this is going to be. The cool thing about the Starlink launches is that a day or two after, they will usually put a time and place that you can look in the night sky based on your latitude and longitude, and be able to see the trailing of these satellites. There's usually somewhere between 40 and 60 of them that go up and get dropped off. And it ends up being like a wagon train in the sky. I've seen this once, and it's really, really impressive. So our winter constellations are beginning to rise. A lot of folks, the constellation that they are most familiar with, other than the Big Dipper, is Orion the Hunter. And Orion is coming back beginning in November, about mid-month. After about 10 o'clock, you're going to be able to see Orion rising in the east, and he will be with us all the way through into February and even, I think, into early March, just rising earlier every evening. Some special winter sights that are available for folks with binoculars. And these, although they can be seen in a telescope, I think that they're great binocular sights, and most folks have got a pair of good old sports binoculars at home. The first one is the Pleiades, which is an open star cluster, and it precedes Orion rising in the night sky about a half hour before Orion is up. The picture on the right is a long exposure photograph, and so you're seeing a little bit of nebulosity or gas around the stars. That won't show up in your binoculars or your naked eye view. Sometimes folks mistake the Pleiades for the Little Dipper because it actually looks like a little teacup in the night sky. But it's an open cluster, and it just so happens that from where we observe on the Earth, the arrangement of the brighter stars looks a little bit like that teacup. It's also known as the Seven Sisters, and if you've got a Subaru car, you've got the Pleiades on your front bumper or your front logo that's in the middle of the grille. And the other special winter sight that's visible in binoculars is the Orion Nebula. The Orion Nebula is a star birthing region, and if you take a look at the image on the left, that kind of traces what Orion looks like in the night sky. The star birthing region is part of what we consider to be Orion's sheath or sword hanging down from his belt, the 3 stars that are crossed diagonally in the middle. A picture of what this looks like in optical light is in the small box on the right-hand side. And you can see this with binoculars or even a small telescope. What the large picture on the right-hand side is an infrared view, and it allows us to kind of look through a lot of the dust and gas to be able to see that very well lit up area, meaning that there's lots and lots of young star formation going on there. So a couple of things that you can look at probably later in the month of November. If you've got a pair of binoculars and looking towards the east after, say, 9:30 or so. So that kind of ends our November presentation. I look forward to being back with you all in December. There we go. I've stopped sharing my screen. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?